I wanted to share another Neville Goddard success story, this time about how I manifested a second SP, my current SP, into an exclusive relationship. If you want to listen to my first story, I'll link it above. So I met this new girl through mutual friends from my previous relationship, my old SP. We'll call this new girl Georgia. So the first time I met Georgia, I immediately thought she was very attractive and cute. I loved her energy. She had this warm, magnetic vibe that stood out to me right away. But at the time, I was still in that other relationship, so I really didn't think much of it. And then about a week later, my ex and I actually broke up. So for the next 3 months or so, I was honestly pretty down. I just needed time to heal, reset, and just get back to myself. So then one day out of nowhere, about 3 months later after the breakup, I just felt this strong urge to download Hinge again. It wasn't forced, it just felt like I was ready. And the very first person to appear on my feed was Georgia. I immediately got nervous. I was definitely attracted to her, but I kind of started overthinking it. I thought maybe it was too close to mutual friends, too messy, a little too soon. So I actually just passed on her. So the next morning, I woke up and I went on Hinge and I actually saw that Georgia had liked me first. So I kind of went back and forth on whether I should pursue it, but deep down, I did feel that inner push to go for it, so I did. We went on a great first date and I knew I was into her. So then I asked her on a second date, but this one didn't really go the way that I wanted. It just felt awkward. The conversation didn't flow really naturally and the vibe just kind of felt off. So after that, neither of us really reached out, but even with that awkward second date, I was definitely still interested in her. So about a month later, I went to a yoga class with a friend, and it turns out that Georgia worked at the yoga studio and happened to be opening and closing for that exact class. So life was moving pieces again. Things felt a little awkward, mostly on my side, but we were friendly. And then later that evening, she texted me saying she hoped I enjoyed the class. So our communications after that was pretty spotty. She would take 2 or more days to respond. Sometimes the energy felt warm and sometimes distant. So externally, nothing really looked promising. But internally, this is when I locked in on my mindset and self concept. Nothing was happening on the outside, but on the inside, I was becoming the version of me who was desired, wanted, pursued, and chosen. So I started feeling like I already had the relationship. So one night after class, another friend from the studio invited me out with a group, including Georgia, the next evening, and I accepted. So that night ended up being super fun. It also gave me the chance to talk to Georgia with zero pressure, no dating energy, no expectations, just naturally getting to know each other. And a couple of weeks later, I mentioned how hard it was to find dog sitters because my dog didn't really like strangers entering my apartment. And Georgia offered to watch my dog for a day that weekend, so I accepted. So that day, I dropped him off and I ended up sitting inside her place and chatting for a while. And then later, when I came to pick him up, she invited me inside again and we kept talking. So I took this opportunity and I asked if she wanted to get ice cream and grab a pup cup for the dog. And she agreed, so we got ice cream. We sat on a park bench nearby and ended up talking for hours. And here's what's important because this whole time, I had been journaling daily about being pursued, desired, and wanted. I wasn't obsessing over her, I was just focusing on how I wanted to feel. And after that hangout, I definitely felt a shift. She started texting me more. She was now responding within 24 hours instead of days like previously. She sent me a recipe and I suggested we make it together. But then things kind of got shaky again. She started sending me mixed signals. She was acting interested and then unavailable, acting like she wanted to hang out, then saying she was busy when I asked to like schedule a day. So this is where I think most people spiral, but I didn't. No matter what she did or said, I persisted in my self concept. I reminded myself that no one is like me, I am desired, I am chosen, people want to date me. Every morning, I would play empowering music, journaled, and I would step into that confidence. So, around the same time, I started testing Neville Goddard's teachings on small things. So, for example, I would close my eyes, I imagined holding a rubber ducky, I felt the rubber texture, I squeezed it, I felt the little nose, and I hadn't seen a rubber ducky since I was a kid. But a couple weeks later, I did receive that duck. And then I tested it again. Maybe that was just a one time thing. I imagine finding a quarter heads up on a specific street in our town. 11 days later, it happened exactly like that. So those tests were kind of huge for me because they really proved something powerful, that the law doesn't fail. So this gave me confidence with Georgia. Even when I got mixed signals, I knew that appearances didn't matter. Then one Friday night, we all went out again as a group, and this is kind of when everything changed. She was definitely flirting with me. She was offering to buy me drinks, giving me attention all night. We stayed out until 2 a.m., and then she asked if she could walk me home, and the rest is kind of history. And I want to be honest here, when something finally romantic did happen, I was actually in shock because everything leading up to that moment had looked so inconsistent. It looked uncertain, it looked like nothing would happen, but I believed in the law and I genuinely knew she would like me and want me. So after that night, we started seeing each other consistently, but I kept doing the inner work. It never stops. Now I wanted an exclusive relationship. So just like before, I would fall asleep every night as the version of me who was already in a loving, healthy relationship. And about a month later, Georgia told me she wanted to be exclusive, meaning we would stop seeing anyone else and just fully explore the relationship. And then another month later, she asked me to be her girlfriend. And here's the part that kind of blew my mind because this entire time she had been talking to her friends about me. Again, proof that even when nothing seems to be happening in the 3D world, things are always moving in the background. I had even been writing in my journal that she was telling her friends and family about me and that people around her were encouraging to date me. And I didn't write that to control her. I wrote it down because of how it made me feel. That's wanted, desired, and chosen, and that's the real secret. Manifestation is not about chasing people, it's about becoming the version of you who naturally receives love. So when you shift your self concept, the outside world has no choice but to reflect it.